Do you see real estate as a great vehicle for wealth? What's your take?
If I get a buyer who says to me, what's the feedback been? I know that it's the real estate industry that's trained that buyer to ask that question. They don't even know what they're asking. What do they expect me to say? The feedback has been 2 million. And then what does that mean? It means so many things to so many different people. We've learned not to say anything. There's no feedback. The secret there is to never say,
What's the temperature of the market?
The rates at the moment might be really low. Even 5% might be really low.
5% might be a great rate.
I think we're in for another round of quantitative easing and money printing, which means that interest rates will come down to 1-2%. I would think in the next 1 to 2 years. And in the States in particular, that they will. There's two options there. It's to either, print,
Or cut.
or not. Yeah, and I think that the printing will happen.
It'd be really interesting for someone out there either considering to start a project or is sitting on one and going, which direction do we go? What is the best way to start? Where do you look first?
The secret is I knocked on the door and Nila opened the door and my heart skipped a beat.
Well, for the welcome to the romance side of real estate. Welcome to Homerun. This episode, we're with Steve and Nila Koerber. Now, if you don't recognise those names, you're probably not living in Auckland, and you certainly don't live in Remuera, because they are a household name, a brand. And not only that, since 2016, they've sold 3 times more real estate in Remuera, one of Auckland's blue chip suburbs, than anyone else. Great to have you with us, guys.
Thanks.
Maybe I can throw it to you. What's our audience going to get from our chat today, do you think?
Oh, I'm not sure. I think that's up to Nila, really.
I think happiness.
Oh, yeah. So for a disclaimer, I've worked with Steve and Nila for a while now. We run a production company and they use our services. And I think it's close to 3 years we've been working together.
I think longer.
Probably 3 or 4 years now. And hands down, one of the best clients that we've worked with, just in terms of the organization, what they like, how they see properties. And it's just such a joy to work with you guys. And thanks for coming to our podcast, because we really wanted to have you on board just to touch upon, obviously, what you do and you do really well, but also sort of behind the scenes of who you guys are. And I would love to sort of, before we even get into the real estate side of things, I would love to know sort of, how did you guys meet? How did that all happen and how did that all come together?
You want to go?
I was, Nila will fill in the gaps, but I was selling, I'd come out of my previous marriage and been on my own for 2 to 3 years and bringing up 3 kids, quite young kids. And so I teamed up with some other real estate agents to, keep going, keep my sanity. And I was listing a house for a lovely older Sri Lankan lady in Aoraki Road. And her niece was coming up from Australia who was in real estate over there.
Right.
And I thought, oh gosh, this real estate agent's going to come in from Australia and tell me how to do things. The auction was coming up. It was a week before the auction and I knocked on the door at 63 Aoraki Road. And Nila opened the door and my heart skipped a beat.
Well, what a romantic. What did you think when he knocked at the door?
You always ask that.
Welcome to the romance side of real estate.
No, he actually looked like a really nice person. That's the first thing that struck me. I thought, for a successful real estate agent, he looks like a really nice person.
What do you think about working with your significant other?
It's amazing. I'm so lucky he takes me to work.
We love it.
Every day I think, aren't I the luckiest person?
It'd be boring if we didn't.
Yeah, it'll be like long spells not seeing Steve. So we do everything together, not just real estate. We do Pilates together. We do walks, everything.
Yeah, it's just life. Those real estate just melt.
I think maybe for a day we might not see each other for half an hour.
And when sleeping.
No, we like being together.
Was that the
That's
inspiration
magic.
behind the branding, or you call that sort of love your area? Is that sort of transpired by your personal journey too?
I think life should be all about love. Whatever you do, it should be about love. It doesn't matter. I always say, if you're cleaning the toilet, you should do it with love. Doesn't matter what you're doing. You should not resent doing whatever you're doing at that time. Cooking dinner or whatever you're doing. It should be, ironing clothes. It should be, done with. You should be happy to be there and doing that.
I agree with you. That's I wonder, what do you do? Because sometimes maybe you aren't feeling the love. Maybe you are feeling a little bit of resentment. What do you do if you notice that you're not quite operating on that frequency? Or do you just always slip into that?
I always tell myself maybe it's not the nicest thing to do, but you are doing it, so you might as well do it with open heart and generosity because you're doing that. Otherwise, you're only hurting yourself.
True.
It's very true.
That's what I
It
think.
is very true.
I didn't know that we would go to this spot on the podcast, but I think it's quite a telling thing to understand.
I always,
your
because I've known them and I've known their history. I was like, it's really interesting that from this, the love sort of blossomed from real estate and how they operate as a team, but also as a couple. It's just amazing to see that every day it's consistently good, and that is, at least in my experience, for what I've seen in the some of the agents that we deal with, it's not the norm. So I'm always curious to know, and I know we've spoken behind the scenes about this here and there, but I'm always curious to know what is that? What are those fundamentals that you put in place for this operation to run so smoothly, and to the wider context to the team that you have?
I think the key is since I was going to say 1916. since 20. Good almost.
I was going to say, Steve, gosh, you really are doing well.
Since 2016, Nila. So I've had PAs. So I've been doing real estate since 1996, and I went through a lot of different PAs, and I was always such a busy agent that I didn't spend the time that I needed to with the PAs and nurturing them. So what Nila really brings to the table, or brought to the table to me in 2016, was how she treats people, and so she's the nurturer in our team, and we've stuck together basically since then. There's been little minor changes in people that work with us.
I mean,
We're
life.
like family.
Yeah, things happen and people move on and do other things with their life. But especially with Trudy, she's like family, and we look after each other. And she's like an amazing person. When we first, Trudy does, she does our marketing and does everything else for us too. But it's I always knew whoever got her was going to win. She's that amazing, but no one was looking after her.
Yeah.
So loyal.
So you sort of need to look after each other, basically. If you're working together, it's like a family, really, isn't it? Spend so much time together.
I do agree
You
with
want
that.
everyone to be happy.
I do agree with that, but I feel it's also probably to do with how you both operate and how strong you guys are. That sort of rubs off on your wider team as well. Yeah. And of course, we've worked with Trudy and the rest of your team, and they're amazing people. But just to have that unity within the team and for it to run for so long is commendable.
I was thinking this morning, we're a weird 24/7 operation. It's like, it's probably not that healthy in some people's eyes, but we really do run all of our people that work with us.
Sometimes they work at 11 in the night.
Trudy's working till 2 which sounds ridiculous, but she's working till 2 in the morning. And that's the culture we've grown. We probably just need to have people working a little bit less, but
nobody thinks of it as a job.
yeah,
It's
they
just,
love it because they love it. We love it.
Yeah, I can see that. And that's quite interesting because there are, much like Harps, with what I do, I come across lots of different salespeople at different stages of the business with different approaches, with different levels of work on. But yeah, to see people that are consistently happy and calm is not probably the common scenario for the average real estate agent. So it's quite interesting to, I guess, just explore that a little bit further, because I think this has got relevance not just for people that work in real estate, but I think, especially Nila, your philosophy that you kind of just shared there, I think must be a big part of it. But how did you find yourself doing real estate And what is it about it that you love so much that it's not really work, it's just your life together?
Want to go first?
Oh, you're good.
Okay. I used to be an accountant in the olden days, but I was a really bad accountant because after 4 hours, I absolutely hated it. I'm like, get me out of here. Because I missed people. I really missed people. Just doing books was like not my thing.
That was hard to do with love in your heart.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, what are you doing this for the tax man for? You know, it's just like, what's the purpose of this? You know, you're just collecting money. It's just terrible for me. So I started a cooking business because I wanted to be with my 4 kids. I was a single mom.
And Nila's an amazing cook.
It just made me happy. It was so easy to make people happy with food. I'm like, gosh, this is so easy. You shove some food in front of people and they're so happy. I'm like, wow, easiest thing to do.
That's what I do with coffee.
It's like instant happiness. But I did that for 4 years and I was so exhausted because I'd sleep for 4 hours and work for 20 hours.
Yes.
That was like super exhausting with 4 little kids and doing that. So I was doing my cooking class where I'd have 8 people sitting in front of me and they were all happy. I'd feed them and we'd cook together. It was like lots of happiness. But one of my people in the class that day said, wow, Nila, you're really good at this. You make a really good real estate agent. And I'm like, oh, really? There must be an easier way to make a buck than this.
What do you think it was that they saw in you?
I don't know. Maybe just, I don't know, energy, maybe. Because you have to put a lot of energy into giving a cooking class or whatever, you know. You've got to keep the energy going a little bit like a podcast, isn't it? Otherwise, everyone goes to sleep.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Wow.
It wasn't even about the food end of the day why people were coming. People were not coming for the food, really. They wanted to be happy. And, you know, it was just fun.
Experience the vibe.
It was just a fun.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So anyway, I went and did this little real estate course in Australia, which is easier than here. I think it's just a week of it. And yeah, the guy said, oh, you can take your homework home. I'm like, not really. I've got to cook for 50 people. Better get it done now.
Oh, cool.
Anyway, it's sort of, Then I did real estate. It was the toughest market ever in Queensland.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so tough. Like, you think no one was coming to open homes. You know, if one person came, I'd just latch on to them like for the week and then sell them a house.
It was funny when we first hooked up because Nila would be there doing open homes and there'd be no one there. And it was a really hot market here where I was, and I'd have 100 people through the open homes and multi-offers and 15 bidders and stuff like that. And Nila's just trying to close a deal and find someone who would maybe buy the house at a seriously low price.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I had to sell one house for the month to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And I'd go home and tell the kids, wow, we sold the house.
It was such a big excitement there. And then Nila found that
a bit of a celebration.
hard, because because I was in this sort of turnover mode, there's like sales every sort of 2 or 3 days. Yeah. And I didn't celebrate because it was just normal. And Nila's like, why aren't you celebrating?
What a good reminder.
Anyway, that's me.
Oh, my story is a little bit more boring. I was ex-military, Navy in Australia. I grew up there, and so I went through the Navy system as I left as a naval officer at 13 years, a lieutenant commander. I used to drive warships.
Oh, wow.
And I was like what they call a principal warfare officer. So it was a job that had a lot of responsibility at a very young age. So, but I left. I didn't come into real estate until I was 32, and I find that quite interesting looking at the industry now with a lot of people coming in at sort of age 20 and under 25. There's a real. But I guess I had a lot of life experience before coming into real estate.
Fantastic.
And yeah, I got sick of the corporate environment of the military, the bureaucracy of it, really. So I wanted to break free of that. So I don't like bureaucracy. We're very much a business within a business. But yeah, going back to what drew me to real estate, I wanted reward for effort. I was young, enthusiastic, ambitious, wanted reward for effort. And I guess I was a lot more financially driven then than I am now.
So do you think that your military or your Navy background actually helped you put a lot of that discipline and that work ethic that you've got?
Oh, completely. Yeah. No, outdoor knocking and in tears and driving rain. You can hear the rain outside here today. I mean, 45-degree rain and door knocking.
Because even till date, if I'm not wrong, you guys still, both of you, go and do your the quarterly reports that you produce, and then both of you go and drop that.
Yeah.
That's just a bit of exercise.
Yeah, with Trudy. So Trudy and Steve and I drop 5,000 quarterly reports every quarter. We pound the streets and do it ourselves. Once I had this knee pain because I was running then. I was running too much and I got this knee and I was just limping along, dropping the quarterly report. That was
determination.
I mean, you're clearly in a position where you could delegate that to somebody else.
Yeah.
So you do it for the exercise, but is there another benefit?
Nobody does it as well as we do, but we sort of like to look at the houses and we talk to people when we're walking along.
Exactly.
And you tell them, oh, this is the quarterly report, and they're really happy to get it from you, and they sort of like to know you're doing it yourself. Somehow, people's eyes light up. Oh, you're still doing that.
As that personal touch.
We put weeks of effort into just the editorial that goes into that.
Yeah.
I don't like it to look like it's something that you read in the New Zealand Herald. It's always got a complete Remuera slant on it.
And you write it from scratch. I mean, Steve writes all his copy, from scratch. A lot of agents pay someone to do it.
Yeah. We do, I think, quite deeply about a lot of that stuff. And like this month, I'm about to start writing a new one. And the seed of an idea for me is just to talk about days on market. Because it's days on market in the real estate industry is poorly reported. I think it's just a statistic that is actually completely irrelevant because of the way that people, come on the market and then go off and come on. So you get this thing where it says, oh, it took 3 days to sell it, and that goes into the stats. And it's been on the market for 2 years.
Yep.
I mean,
a lot of stats are so skewed, though, isn't it? People manipulate stats really badly.
So I'm just going to explain to the Remuera community to not focus on days on market.
It's worthwhile to just explore that a little bit more deeply, because I think clearly, you're both, and Stevie, I hear you writing that editorial piece and you think quite deeply about those market forces. I'm fascinated by that as well. So if we're disregarding days on market, before we just throw it out, let's just understand that, especially for people watching this, what do people think about it? And more importantly, what should they be thinking about it based on your understanding?
Well, I probably, when I write this article, this is just, like I said, it's a seed of an idea, but I will twist it to more of a marketing slant, because I mean, this quarterly report it's a marketing piece for us, but it's also informative. So it'll be the marketing slant on that will be, I probably will look at our own statistics and have a look at that. And perhaps give the Remuera community the idea, if it's true, that we are able to sell houses a little bit quicker than the average, so that would be. Yeah. And this is just me formulating this. I haven't really even thought deeply about this yet, but this is how I think.
Well, something that I've thought about those days on market is exactly as you said. You might have a property that's sat on the market for, say, 100 odd days with one particular agency, and there'd be a myriad of factors why that property hasn't sold, but then it comes to the market again with a new agent, and as you say, sells more quickly. That's actually reported by that agency through to Ryan's as a sale based off their agency period, and it might be a 14-day sale. But as you say, that's actually been in the market now for 124 days. And you go a little bit further past that, and the properties that haven't sold, they're actually still, they should count towards the days on market, but because they haven't sold, you can't use them in the analysis, so they don't contribute to it.
Exactly right.
So those are a couple of things that I think about the days on market, which make it a hard metric. But I have some ideas, but we're asking you. I'm curious, if you're not looking at days on market as a bellwether to say, here's the market forces, here's the balance of power between buyers and sellers, what do you pay attention to outside of your anecdotal experience as to what's the temperature of the market?
Oh, well, that's a very good question, because our last quarterly report has a temperature, and we call it a heat map of the Remuera market since 2015. And so for every single month, we've got a heat map there that's, for a warm market, it's orange, and for a cooling market, it's blue. So you can actually just visually look at that and see. You can see at the moment that the Remuera market has actually started to warm up. And what that relates to is it's the quarterly median price for any 1 month higher than the quarterly median for 12 months earlier. And that has been happening for the last
because I think
5 months.
that takes away the seasonal variant too. Like you can't once another person put out a report and it was comparing January with February and saying the market's gone up 200%. But nothing sells in January. So just because you sell a lot in February, you can't say that the market's gone up 200% because January is not a working month.
We saw a newsletter the other day.
Yeah, January and December both.
Yeah, they're holidays.
We saw a newsletter the other day that went into the streets and it said that sales are up 213%. The newsletter actually says
month on month.
Month on month.
But it's a misleading statement.
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Yeah.
So that's the quality of...
it's sensationalism without actual information.
Yeah, that's a terrible thing to say. But so you sort of do need to take that seasonal variation out, but you're comparing that with the interest rates, isn't it now?
Well, that's the thing, yeah. So the other thing we'd be bringing in is showing how interest rates have impacted the Remuera market for the last 15 years. And it's fascinating. It's really telling.
It's really got a good
high rates, low volume.
And how do you know whether a rate is high?
Exactly.
Monitor it.
Yeah, he's taking a leaf out of my book there because, the rates at the moment might be really low. Even 5% might be really low.
5% might be a great rate. Yeah. I mean, we're going to be talking to economists and we're going to ask them the same question. But I mean, based on your experience, you've been active in the real estate market a very long time, not just as an agent, but as a buyer and seller. Right. And so that means, I assume, that you've also been active in, structuring deals and securing lending, and obviously not just for yourself, but also for your clients. Yeah. So, I mean, what's your take?
You talk to all these baby boomers about, interest rates, right? And it'll always come out, I paid 18% in the old day. The funny thing is, I actually caught the end of that when I first invested in real estate when I was 21 bought a place with my parents. And it was 18%. But a lot of my investing life where, I made quite a lot of mistakes was 9 to 12%. It was just common. And so, that's more than double what we're talking now, isn't it?
Yeah. Isn't it interesting? Because if actually, as I'm pondering this, baby boomers, my parents, you caught the tail end of it, 18, 20%. Then in my experience, when I first started buying real estate, interest rates were at that time probably around about 5%. This was like 2006, 2007. Then they went up. And I remember I fixed my loan, I think it was for 3, it might have been for 5 years, at 8.99 because the floating rate had got up to 10.5%, but that's kind of half of what it was previously. And now we're kind of in yet another season, and interest rates were 2.5%. Then they up to 5%, and then up to getting close to 8%. But now we've settled back to 5%. I mean, do we enter into another reduction regime, or are we into a totally new debt cycle, and maybe this is actually a bloody attractive rate? What's your take?
I love studying money and how it works. And, I think we're in for another round of quantitative easing and money printing, which means that interest rates will come down to, the base rates, 1-2%. I think the market will be flooded with cash. I think the real estate market will fly again, just like it did last time we did quantitative easing. But, when that happens, I don't know. But I would think in the next 1 to 2 years.
Although this is an interesting dynamic, because you look at what's happening in the States, and they are unable to enter another round of quantitative easing because of the inflation risk. We're not in a dissimilar position. So the Reserve Bank doesn't actually have the same tool, but there's so much risk to actually doing it because inflation is just only barely under control. So I'm going to challenge you there. I'm not going to say you're wrong. I'm just going to say, I want to challenge your thinking here. If we have to assume that inflation is on the cusp of, we're in a market where there's a good amount of supply, still a reasonable amount of hurt almost in the marketplace. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, there is, yeah. And I think that in the States in particular, that there's two options there. It's to either, print,
or cut,
or not, yeah. And I think that the printing will happen.
You think it will happen?
Well, because it's happened so many times. There's the QE regime that's happened in the States over the last 20 years. You had QE 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we're up to 5 or 6. And it'll just roll on. That's why gold's going up so much.
Yeah, good investment, eh? Here I was thinking that you should buy gold. I talked to Steve last night and he said to me, well, I've done quite well investing in gold mines. Genius. It's like somebody else said to me, but you don't have to pick a phone manufacturer, just back the lithium mines.
Oh, yeah.
Our lithium didn't do it too well, though.
We looked at that a few years ago, and then it's sort of.
I've just stuck to real estate, to be honest.
yeah, stick to what you're good at.
Yeah, although interestingly enough, you've
tanked.
diversified. Yeah,
We
I mean,
did.
do you see real estate as a great vehicle for wealth, or are you mainly looking at other ventures? What's your take?
It's interesting that because we're about to sell
We're
property,
about to sell a property.
and it's like, whoa, what do you do with that money?
Yeah. I don't know whether, I should be saying, it's a great vehicle for wealth, but I don't know. It's like, it takes a lot of energy, isn't it? Looking after property. It's not like easy money, I don't think. And it takes a long time. So
what is it like for you guys being on the other side of it when you are the vendor or when you are selling versus listing for others? How does that change your mind frame and how you look at things?
I think it's been great doing it because you know what the vendor's feeling, because you never know what a vendor is feeling till you're a vendor. It's a hard gig. First, getting the house prepared and listening to an agent itself, it must be so hard if the agent's not honest with you and kind to you. You sort of have to be kind to your vendors. I know some agents who really, they're nice till they list it and then start bashing up the vendor, which is like, must be such an awful place to be in. So at least you got to be kind to your vendors because it's a tough gig.
Yeah.
Can you give us an example? Because I know, in fact, I believe it's a Tom Panos quote, real estate is just a series of difficult conversations. How do you do that with kindness?
I don't know whether we don't have enough difficult conversations, but you can have it with kindness. You go to a doctor and he says, you got 3 months to live. You can still do that with kindness, say, make a plan and make the most of it and, get the family involved. But you can do the same. It's only money, I tell them. You're not going to die. It's only money. So, it might be a bit tough now, but you got time to make up for it. That's the best option you got at the moment.
Yeah, I'm quite often at the moment saying to people, sometimes you got to take one step back to take two forward.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll relate that to my own story of having done that a few times.
Yeah, and you sort of need to acknowledge that it's not easy for people to lose money. It's it's like years of earnings sometimes for people. Like 10 years of earnings have gone down the...
Exactly.
Totally.
Yeah.
And when the market goes up, you win because your loan stays the same. But when the market goes down, disproportionately, you lose. The bank doesn't lose, but every cent that's gone there is your, So it is tough, isn't it? You mentioned you relate it to your experiences.
Yeah, well, in my between age 20 and 30, I was in the young guy in the military, and we used to have these, sort of spruikers. They used to call them property spruikers come around. And I made some horrendous investments. I bought a piece of land for $20,000 and sold it for $5,000 about 15 years later.
Oh, wow.
It was like horrendous. Right? So I'm really good at this stuff. And then, a unit on the Gold Coast for 130 and sold it 10 years later for 110. So just
I thought real estate always went up.
So exactly. Well, terrible timing, and in tourism industries and airline strikes and things affected by that.
Wow.
But it wasn't until I met this one that I stopped making those stupid decisions.
Must be the cooking.
Neil has some real clarity around that. In fact, when we decided to invest in gold mines, I said to Nila, listen, I've done all this research, have a look at this. And she said, let's do it. And it's like, it just gave me so much joy to hear that because, without partnership like this, and of course it worked incredibly well.
I think if you're generally happy, you make the right decision. I think if you're not happy, you just do the wrong thing in general because you do it for the wrong reasons.
So what do you do if you're not happy?
You got to get happy first.
What do you do for that?
I think make someone else happy. You'll get, find the right person to make happy and the right people around you to make happy, and you'll get happy. I think you need to find the right people around you and just give to them, and then you'll end up being happy.
When I first met Nila, she would often use this word "happy" around me, and I was coming out of a bit of a depressed state, really.
And I'd harass him and say, "Are you happy, Steve?"
I couldn't relate to the question. It was really weird. It was really weird. I wanted to, But I thought, hang on, no one's ever asked me this stuff before. And, so you helped me a lot, Dale.
How do you define happiness, Nila?
Happiness is being peaceful and just generally a light feeling. Not that heaviness.
Yeah.
You can see that heaviness in a person even when you look at them from behind. You can feel that, they're feeling really heavy. Happiness is a lightness of spirit.
To start with, right? Just being content.
It's not what you have. It's just that lightness of being.
What do you do when you come into contact with these people that you see that heaviness?
I try my best to help. Give them a hug at least and try my best to help.
But Nila generally just has this really warm energy. Like you walk into the room and she's like, hi, and she lights up the room and everyone else is like, oh, okay, yeah, cool.
You can't be unhappy around her.
I can tell you exactly. I mean, I'm sure watching you'll see this, but you can feel it.
Yeah.
And it's not only that, you've also got a little cheekiness to you.
Horribly cheeky. I say terrible things sometimes.
Oh, you shoot from the hip with your kids. It's crazy. She says, Sachin, you need to get a job. If you're asked to get a job, and he's got various degrees.
Truth teller.
He's finding his way in the world. Loveliest kid.
Yeah.
Get a job.
Yeah. Say how it is.
She doesn't have difficult conversations. She just tells it how it is, but with a lightness and love behind it.
I told the architect something looked like shit. And she said, what do you really think, Nila?
Talking of architects, obviously I know that you guys have done projects in the past before, and I think we were lucky to be part of one of them where we photographed that amazing house that you had renovated to really cool architectural standards.
Built.
Built. And so just talk us through that process. Like, I know that you guys probably do that out of love in terms of,
we have so
because there's a
much
lot of
fun
love
doing
that goes into it, and especially the details, and that's what we love. Just talk us through the process, because it'll be really interesting for someone out there listening that's probably either considering to start a project or is sitting on one and going, which direction do we go? And because you guys have done, I'm guessing, a few of these already, what is the best way to start? Where do you look first?
The secret is to have the right people helping you do it. Like for us, it was architect, builder. Everyone in the chain was perfect. I remember thinking about it, and there was one person that we had that was not right, and they left and they were replaced by someone else, and everything then just was really smooth. I think it was to do with a garden. But every sort of piece of everyone gets on really well and is nice and kind and good listeners, and so that's what we've managed to gather around us in terms of the architect and builder.
Nice.
Our builder.
Kind.
Yeah.
How did you go about finding these people? And what have you learned about selecting them?
I guess it's that law of attraction thing, really. It's sort of kicked in and really worked for us, hasn't it? The builder, our builder, there was a nick. You've got a concrete floor here, right? And this was like our garage that we had in that new house. There was a little nick in the floor. We never even noticed it, but he was almost.
He was nearly crying.
Oh, wow. In tears because his garage floor had a nick in it. He didn't know what the hell he was going to do about it.
It's just people care so much for what they do, and it's almost moves you, doesn't it? It's just when people love so much what they do. It's just
one thing we did.
It's just amazing. You can't put a monetary value to it. The energy people put to their work.
One of the most inspiring things about that house build was we had this beautiful big ply ceiling, and you can see it because it's in like the magazines and things now.
Yeah.
And the guy that was doing the ply, like I think he's called the Ply Man in Auckland. The Ply Man, and he's like. We went to this business and it had been bought by younger people, but he was in the back corner, and he showed us all these different types of ply.
It's life's been ply. He started when he was, 18 or something. Now
the things you can specialize in.
He was a ply man. He was like we used to call the Dalai Lama of ply. He loved this ply. Like he'd stroke it so lovingly. He just loved these pieces of wood, and he'd match them and look at them and explain everything to you. And it's just he graded them, and he just loved what he did. But he'd never ever seen a finished product of it. So when people finished their houses, they never called him back to have a look at it.
So we invited him to the blessing ceremony for I think you might have been involved in the photography for that.
Yes.
And he was almost in tears looking at his ply. Beautiful.
Just to see it.
Give us a synopsis of this project for people. Because and is this the one on Mount Hobson?
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe can you just walk us through that entire thing?
Can I start?
Yeah.
So Steve's always wanted a house on a mountain. He's always said, I really wanted a house like up on the hills. I came from the hills because I grew up in Sri Lanka, and I was in
Candy.
my dad was managing tea plantations. I was sort of I love mountains too. So always lived on tops of hills and things. So Steve said, I'd always wanted up on a hill. So we were walking past, and we was trying to sell this place. Actually, nobody wanted it. So we ended up buying it.
You can tell a good salesman when he likes his own product so much, he decides to buy it.
We had to get another
You
agent
drank the
to sell it. Anyway, we bought it and embarked on this journey.
I think we paid too much, because you feel guilty as salespeople. Can't sort of screw these people.
Oh, God.
Anyway. And then we
yeah.
built the house over COVID. And
So was it just a section at the time, or was there a house already?
There was a mid-century house, but it was in such bad condition. It was turned the wrong way for the sun. Wasn't getting any sun, and it was really bad. So we had to knock it down.
Oh, knocked it down.
Completely knocked it down.
Yeah.
We only kept some floorboards, didn't we?
Yep.
It was so bad.
Yep. And then started from scratch.
From scratch.
Yeah. So
use the building platform.
was it purely your team telling you what to do, or did you have your own ideas about what you wanted on the site? And
We've got a great architect.
amazing, really. Actually, that process of getting the architect to build what was quite an iconic sort of house, really. We gave her a bit of a brief. We obviously met her up on the site a few times. It was really challenging because they had volcanic cones and, on a steep site. One of the key things we said was we do not want any moisture to be able to come into the house from the ground, like seeping through concrete walls and stuff like that. So she, figured
This
that
is something you've experienced when selling properties on behalf of other people, when you know what can...
We know what can go wrong, so that
You're terrified of tanking, aren't we?
yeah. So
What are you terrified of?
tanking.
You know how they have to build a barrier?
Against the bank.
Yes.
Yeah, to stop water
So
coming
we
in.
had two walls, so you couldn't have any problems. So which was more expensive.
Yeah, we double walled then.
But I remember the day she came to our house where we are at the moment, that we actually just put on the market. And she laid out this plan, and we looked at it, and it was a pinwheel design. She described it as a pinwheel with a central, foyer area, and it was like remarkable. I remember looking at it thinking, "Holy, there's not many changes I want to make to that."
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And Nila was the same.
Yeah, I said I wanted a Zen house to her.
Yeah, it was definitely very zen.
Yeah.
It felt really, really cool.
But
Nice.
Yeah, she said Zen's not cheap.
she was right.
We'll worry about it once it's done.
I guess
To make things look effortless takes a lot of effort. I think anything, isn't it, helps with your photography, with anything in life, to make it look effortless. It's like a lot of effort goes behind it. Any job, isn't it?
All right.
Any job you do. Even selling a house, isn't it? To make it look effortless, you got to take so much effort to get all your ducks in a row, do building inspections and make the house look absolutely perfect. I tell people they're not buying a house, they're buying a dream, they're buying that lifestyle thinking, I'm going to be really happy in this space. So it's not just a house.
So your this effortless is expensive, or it requires a lot of effort actually to make it look so easy. Would you these projects, were you doing them with a plan to sell them?
No.
So you're building these for yourself, with your own love and passion for it, but also leveraging someone. When you were talking about the architect who came and put together the thing, to my mind, this is a person whose their professional life has been devoted to it. They've found their passion, they love what they're doing, and you go to them and say, well, make me something beautiful, and they put it in front of you, and you go, I love it.
Exactly.
Yeah, you got to trust people too, isn't it?
faith
That they know what they're doing.
And it won an Auckland Architectural Award. And I said, I remember saying the first day to her, I would love you to win an award, Megan.
Yeah.
But she...
Who's the architect?
Megan Edwards. Yeah.
Megan Edwards.
Yeah.
And I think we did
bring
give
up
her
some
a lot
photos of this.
we gave her a lot of license, didn't we? She could run free.
And
She would have loved it, and you loved the result.
Yeah, and sometimes the best architect is not the one who's making a lot of money, these people are really artists, aren't they?
Yeah, she's very arty.
They they don't have the best business skills, or they just love what they do, and they don't end up being like super wealthy sometimes, which is a bit sad. But it's just they love what they do.
Well, that's why I wondered about the real estate thing. I think it's quite interesting to have you here. Obviously, you're incredible real estate salespeople and agents. But we're taking specific interest not just on what you do as salespeople, but almost firstly your journey, but also the fact that you've actually bought and sold, and you've done build projects and renovations at a level that is high end and at a scale that some people would probably my eyes were watering when you started telling me about the build costs alone. And there's always risk when you're taking on a project of that magnitude. I think, were you being considered for the Grand Designs program? And if I recall correctly, the reason probably what you weren't put there was that there wasn't going to be enough drama, because if it had problems, you just keep tipping money at it.
That's exactly what I said to the people. Yeah, I said, well, we'll just work harder.
Their question was, what will you do if you run out of money?
Yeah, we said we'll just work harder.
And I love that about this real estate industry, and that's what it's given us, is the ability to do that.
Yeah, it's not unlimited earning potential, but it is only limited by how hard and how smart you can be with your effort.
We could take our foot off the pedal if we didn't.
You could die in a day, couldn't you?
Need that. Yeah.
Any business could die in a week if you didn't keep working at it.
Yeah.
Isn't it? People forget you. If you're gone for a couple of months, they'll forget who you are.
Yeah, that can.
I want to finish talking about the property as well, but I'm also feeling the conversation going towards that side, and I'm really interested to kind of hear. Perhaps we come back to the actual project itself and just go into this piece where, when you were considering the build, you were aware of some of the things that you wouldn't want to have happen to your property because you've seen it happen for other sellers.
Oh, yeah.
So what are some of the problems that you encounter when selling properties that you should be mindful of if you're building or renovating or buying? What are some of the things that you should do when you are getting the property ready for sale? And so we shifted from we're approaching this property as we're putting money and time into maintenance and improvements for our life, and now we're doing whatever's required to get it ready to market. And you've had some incredible successes with your recent campaigns of your own properties. And I guess you just take your own advice. But what is your advice? What have you done? There's a lot there to unpack, I know, so I'm handing it over to you.
Yeah, I think we do actually really have quite a skill in getting a house. If we have the ability to bring a house to market without a vendor there, it would, in our minds, be perfect and would go really well, and it would smooth the way to a sale. Vendors sometimes get in the way of that. They go, well, listen, my house is perfect, so I'm not going to get a pre-sale building inspection report. To us, that's a real red flag, because we know. Well, for example, when we sold our brand new home on the mountain, we got a building inspection report and had it there on our files in case we needed it. And the day before the auction, the underbidder said, I'd really like to buy that house. I do not buy a home without a building inspection report. So we gave it to them. There's obviously disclaimers around that because they should be getting their own.
Yes.
But of course, would a brand new house really fail any sort of report, or could there be any dodginess in that? I don't think so. So having that report put potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars in our own pocket. And so when a vendor says to me, I'm not going to listen to you, and I'm not going to get it built the buyer of my house will get the pre-sale building inspection report. Guess what happens is that 2 weeks down the track, we get the first buyer who says, I want a report. The report goes through. The builder's underneath the house. There's 5 piles that are shot here. The house is half falling down. If we knew that, we've got contacts that can fix those piles for probably $5,000 to $8,000, and they can do it in a day.
It's only $600 a pile to fix it. It's not
so
a lot
much
of money.
better to have identified an issue and fixed it, because then it doesn't disrupt your campaign.
I think I don't know, but maybe some people in the industry wonder how we get so many bidders to our auctions in this tough market, and how do we sell so many properties. This is one of the reasons that we do it better than, I think, than anyone else. We smooth the way to a sale. That's only just one aspect too, that whole building inspection thing. And it's really,
what are the other things?
It's actually really contentious too. You could talk to a bunch of different sales meetings all around the country. They, you've got to get building inspections. I tell you what, you'd have all sorts of mud thrown at you.
Mate, see, this is so fascinating because I'm aligned with you on this. I think it makes sense. Yes, you've got to have the appropriate disclaimers in play, and yes, there can be some subjectivity in a building inspection report. That said, if they're independent and you're passing it over and you're letting buyers know that it has come from the vendor and they should get their own inspection, however, they've still got some confidence with that.
Confidence to get their own report.
Exactly. Most importantly, if there was an issue, you picked up on it before you embarked on marketing, you can do something about it. Or decide not to and disclose, but at least that way you've got the front foot.
You can at least get a quote to know how much it costs to fix it.
We're going to get some pushback on this. So, and if you've got a difference of opinion, we'd love to hear from you. I'm pretty open-minded. And you can always have a little debate with Steve. That'd be interesting. Clearly, you really believe in it. What are some of the other things that you do in, I guess, smoothing the way?
Yes, well, it's all of the standard information like limbs and titles and floor plans.
And there are lots of agents who don't even get a council property file. So the council property file says absolutely everything that's happened to the house, not just a limb to say it's been ticked off. So if you need the plans or renovation plans or everything's in the council property file that the council's got. So that's good to have too.
We had one house that was a bit polarizing. It was a 1920s bungalow, but it had a modern black square garage put onto it. And we knew that one of the objections there would be that it was a bit polarising. Some people wouldn't like the look of the house.
They didn't like the black and the white.
So what we do quite often is, and this is where Trudy comes in, she photoshopped it. And so we presented this picture of a house to the person that we knew was going to be polarised by and said, well,
they were the underbidders again.
Here's your new home. Look, it's all white.
It's a white house now. Do you like that better? And we said, oh, yeah, that's not hard to do.
We do that all the time.
Yeah, we sort of make it look really beautiful. Not just look. I say the house has to smell beautiful too. Smell clean and look beautiful and just make it look absolutely perfect.
That's one of the things I also want to touch upon because we obviously do the production, but having gone there, they will have Trudy at least half an hour to an hour prior for us to turn up, and she would have literally gone and picked up every single leaf on a house that's probably like 800 square meters of land.
Yeah, we blow all.
Someone please get her a leaf blower.
No, she's not a leaf blower. She'll clean the pool. She'll clean the pool. She'll literally pick every single leaf off the lawn to make sure that it's spectacular and it's presented really well. For our team to turn up, that's just a massive win because we can then focus on actually being creative and be going, right, how do we really make sure, because Steve's got a really good knack of walking into a property, and he will because he writes his own copy, he will speak about the property in a certain way that's a little bit like poetry. So you're like, oh, cool. And that really inspires you to then capture the property in that certain way as well. And because the legwork is done from your team, that helps us to then go, how do we elevate this further? And that's almost been, touch wood, it's been a non-stop process in every single listing, no matter the size of the property, whether it's a unit or it's like a $10 million property, the process is the same. And that's just exceptional.
I love Grand Designs as a show, and Kevin McLeod, who hosts it. And so with some nice architectural homes, quite often to get myself in the mode of knowing what to say, I just imagine what Kevin would say about the house. Beautiful. And then it comes out. Yeah.
And it's amazing. Like we don't even have to feed words to Steve. It's going, what are you going to say about the property? Because we look forward to saying, what is he going to say about the property? Because it's always going to be different. It's always going to be exceptional.
Sometimes I'm rushing from appointment to appointment, and I'm like, I don't have a clue. It just comes out. Yeah.
Oh no, it's amazing. So with the marketing side of things, like, are there fundamentals that you apply? Obviously, we just touched upon the production side of it, but what are the fundamentals that you guys apply? Is it the same staging company that you guys work with? Is there a brief? Is it has to be the way that you guys envision the house? What's the process in there?
for me, every house has got a soul. Like the owner's soul is there, and it's not to lose that soul with every property, because people feel it.
Yeah.
People feel it if it's just staged and it's just blank. It's just sort of, you do feel it in sort of I don't know. It's just a feeling you get from a property. I think it is to preserve that feeling of the property, but still make it as good as you could possibly make it.
Some homes do just have a beautiful feel,
Yeah.
don't they? And I guess you ideally you have something, as you say, with that real authentic soul of the property. And then you probably, you walk into some places and some places have a bit of a bad feel almost,
Yeah, but we got this, we use Julie Green, and she's just amazing because she's an artist, and she had an art gallery, and she works with what people have.
Oh,
and it's quite amazing to see what she can do with what people have. Even sort of what we are selling, our little place that we've had for how many years? 12 years?
12 years, 11.
Yeah, but we got her into our place and sort of she made it better. Yeah, she's used everything we've got. She's moved a few things around, but she's made it better.
Half of it's
quite lovely.
There's a real
really
real
staging.
skill in staging. I think half of their job is just managing the vendor. Really, the worst thing that can happen is if someone's staging a house and the vendor is there. It's horrendous because for a stager, that's their worst nightmare.
I think it's like watching an artist paint, because the artist has it in their head, but you can't see it while they're doing it. So you got to wait till it's finished.
and because they're also emotionally tied to their property, they would probably prefer the green sofa in a certain place, and then the stages come in, and we come in and we look at it
They can't put
differently.
their buyer's hat on. A lot of vendors. Yeah.
They say, oh, but you can't have it like that. I can't see the TV. I'm like, no,
Maybe the TV shouldn't be there at all.
Yeah.
That's one of our little bugbears. We just don't like TVs in rooms
Oh, you don't either?
at all.
Yeah.
At all. Yeah. If there's ever a real big TV, we just get rid of it.
Yeah, I've noticed that there's hardly TVs in the houses that we shoot.
They don't work from a decor perspective, do they?
No. It's not decorative, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, the frame TVs, but
Yeah. I'm curious. And I'm going to kind of hold up a little bit of a mirror. Something that I sort of see coming through here is that you have a belief: get the right people who love what they're doing and are very good at it, and then get out of the way and let them do it. Yeah. And I see almost your frustration. In fact, I think you said before something along the lines of, sometimes if the vendor would just give us the house and let us make all the decisions, we would get them the very best result. It's when the vendor's in the way. Now, obviously, we say it very respectfully, but what is it that you see as being your expertise? What is it that you bring to the table when someone's appointing you?
it's interesting.
I know that can be a myriad of things potentially. So,
I think when we have someone who's in a bit of trouble in the real estate industry, the way that we operate is pricing is pricing is something that comes up all day, every day. The buyers hit you with it. The sellers, it's important for them. It's just, so the whole dealing with pricing, the whole skill set around that. The use of the word feedback is something that
it's not true feedback.
we avoid. If I get a buyer who says to me, "What's the feedback been?" I know that it's the real estate industry that's trained that buyer to ask that question. They don't even know what they're asking. What do they expect me to say? The feedback has been 2 million. And then what does that mean? Does that mean that it's a 2.5 property? Is it a 2.1 property? It means so many things to so many different people. So we learned not to say anything. There's no feedback. And then when an owner will say, "Oh, what was the feedback from the weekend?" So first open homes, we've had 20 people through. An owner will say to me, "What's the feedback?" What? To me, I find that difficult question. What do you mean? We had 20 people through the house. There's one person who likes it and is likely to proceed through to the auction and buy it. What more do we need to know?
it sounds like to me, though, and this is, I think, a great topic to talk about. I asked you about your expertise, and I hear, by the way you're answering, that one of the things you do really well is handling price. So tell us a little bit about how you handle that, because I hear you saying, well, we don't give it, But I know from my experience with salespeople that the number one question they're asked, especially if they're running a non-price campaign, and look, I personally, I mean, do you have a preferred method of sale? And
Auction.
Okay, so could you tell us what's the reason you like auction, and how do you handle that question from buyers? And then how do you also guide the sellers as to the market conditions and what a good price looks like?
Because it would. Sellers.
Well, I guess I'm asking you to answer both. Maybe let's do buyers first, but I'm interested on the other side as well, because you just said about how the vendor's saying, give us some feedback, and you struggle with, how do I? You don't struggle with what you do tell them, but let's go to the buyers first.
That just back on that feedback thing. Well, we've done an appraisal, right? So the appraisal based on relevant recent data is 2.5 to 3. So there's your feedback. If we don't, if I'm not confident through that program, so that auction program, that we're going to reach somewhere between 2.5 and 3, I will then be giving you feedback that I got it wrong. Yes, that's the only feedback.
And how will you know that you got it wrong?
It's interesting, really, because we recently had one. That we appraised this a couple of weeks back, but we praised it 3 to 3.2, and we started to feel through the program that, gosh, this is an auction that could land at 2.65.
How did you start to get that sense?
The buyers that were coming through were comparing it with other homes that were in those lower ranges. There was one young couple who offered 2.3. So put that in perspective, right? So we got a 3 to 3.2 appraisal.
Yeah.
The young couple very quickly acted and offered 2.3, 2.304. They said that they were maxed out. I asked them what else they were looking at. So this is the important bit. What else were you looking at? They told me it was a property in Mount Eden. I looked it up. I sussed it out, worked out that that might be worth about 2.5. So now they've chosen to offer 2.3 on our house before going to that auction and maybe paying 2.5 for that other one.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there with an appraisal at 3 to 3.2.
Yes.
Thinking, holy, have we got this quite wrong? Then we started to get a little bit of traction, but the only traction we had through that program was the 2.3 offer. But then the traction was that we had stacking up buyers at 2.5 to 2.6 probably. So we had 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah.
Come auction day, I really thought that we would max out at a 2.65, 2.7.
Yeah.
Well, we got 3.
Awesome.
There's one person who wanted it.
There was one standout.
But the thing is, we call it overcooking. If you tell people, we're looking for 3, you won't have anyone at the auction, and you're not going to get anyone at all. And then you turn up at auction day with no bidders, and that's why you have lots of properties with no bidders. I think you sort of have to stop talking about that price and get people there.
And that's
how much they want to pay.
So with the 2.3 people, right? So
They were still there.
So they were at the auction, right? But you can imagine me presenting a 2.3 offer to the owners who were really wanting 3 million. And so, but we do explain to the owners that, and in fact, we've got our own story on that, because we had an offer on our own home when we sold it with 11 bidders. There was an offer that came in at about 50% of the value of the home. And that buyer was one of the underbidders at full price. So we just tell that story. So don't worry about any of these low offers that come in. And it's funny though, because when I say don't worry about these low offers that come in, I don't know, it might be a high offer. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's the part where I'm sort of interested in engaging with you here, because I like the approach when you say, well, what's the feedback? Well, really, we've got the appraisal, and either we remain confident in our appraisal, or we are no longer confident in the appraisal and we need to spearhead that.
Yeah, and we say, we got to do something different, like put a herald ad, because you made the house look absolutely perfect. We made the marketing look absolutely perfect. So we've got to do something different.
Yeah, and sometimes the market can change. There can be more stock come to market that's more competitive, and that can adjust. And sometimes you might have missed something, or there might be something about the property that causes it to be adjusted. But
so when we got that 3 million, basically it was just under that, but for that property, we had a sea of buyers there with, like I call it, possums in the headlights, right? They're there but they're a 2.5 to 2.7 sort of range. Are they? The question is, are they really annoyed with us when they see the property sell for 3 million? Right? And I don't want that, because that's bad for our reputation.
Totally.
Right? Because so the secret there is to never say a price guide. Because if we had said to those 5 people who were possums in the headlights, our price guide's 2.5 plus. Because they're constantly asking. It's so easy to slip up and say, oh, you'd have to be...
Oh, that agent told me it was 2.5 and sold for 3, you know. They just...
You hang on to the figure and not the
And he
range,
said his agents are lying to me.
So if you analyse that whole program, there'll be not one moment where neither of us said, oh, there's a guide here. You know what I do sometimes, just to be a little bit cheeky, is I say, and in fact, I think I did early in those early days of that, just to give the person confidence who's asking me, what's the guide? Well, we just had an offer of 2.3 and, you know, it wasn't enough for the owners. What that did, and that's real, right? There's no lies in that.
Totally. Factual.
So what that did is it galvanised that person to think, okay, well, maybe I'm there. And I like that, because if that was a 2.5 to 2.6 bidder and they were at the auction and they were the highest bidder, right, at 2.6, I've done my job. I've found the highest price in the market for that home was 2.6 from that person who I had previously said, listen, we had an offer of 2.3. But just luckily for the owners, we did everything else right and found the one buyer. Pushed that buyer 100 grand more than they wanted to pay. It was an intense negotiation to get an additional 100 and to get that house sold. Because it was not going to sell if the buyer didn't really, really, really stretch themselves.
For me, it's a really interesting piece here, because I think all the buyers are asking for a price. And I think by nature, many salespeople they want to be help. They want to be of service. And so when they get a question like, oh, you must have some idea. Can you give me a rough piece?
Yeah, that's always comes.
And so, of course, the helpful salesperson, but whatever they say, they run the risk of being wrong, or being right and preventing the outcome.
And you know what they risk is it say they say it's over 2.5. If you got someone that was completely maxed out at 2.5 who hears that, well, they go around the corner and buy the other one the next day. And in my mind, they could have been the person who didn't go around the corner and buy the other house, but they slept on it. They rang their dad and said, hey, Dad, can you give me 200 grand? I really like this place. I want to go to the auction. And that they push someone else up who pays 3 million. So
how do you handle it, though, in a way, like you mentioned before, how you wouldn't want to have that auction happen and have one of those buyers being upset at you because you misled them. How do you handle it in a diplomatic way that still gives them confidence to pursue? If you hadn't had an offer, like you mentioned that particular example, you'd had an offer.
Yeah, but good point. It's
in the absence of any price, what do you say?
That's a little bit more difficult. It's really, I like reverting to the CV. And so I have this, it's a bit of a cheesy line. The CV on that property was 2675. So listen, the CV is 2675. That's all we know. That's the fact out there. These owners know that a lot of homes are selling under CV. It's a little cheeky. These owners know, but it works because it gives the buyer that confidence that, well, maybe the owner's going to be realistic. That the buyer hears what they want to hear. But all I've said is the owner knows that a lot of houses are going to sell below CV. I think it's gold, but some people.
I tell you what, I have people call me and ask for a bit of advice, and friends or friends of friends, and they know I'm involved in the industry, but I'm not actually selling, and I say to them, because agents handle campaigns so differently, the best advice I can give you is totally disregard whatever they tell you about price, and instead focus on actually understanding what's available in the market and what could buy it and what has recently sold, so that you can have some confidence that you understand from your perspective where that market value range is. And I genuinely think, especially like my take on where the market is at the moment, I think there is a little bit of downside risk just due to like geopolitical instability in the world. But outside of that, I think in our own economy and stability, I don't feel like the market's got a lot of downside risk at the moment. I don't also think that it's about to bubble away, but certainly if there's a bit of quantitative easing and interest rates for 2.5% again, well, I'm sure it would. But I feel like you're better to make a decision to buy a property that really suits what you're after, and have the confidence that you're not overpaying, and have the confidence to actually pay what you should to be able to secure it. And if you're buying well as well.
That's the market.
But that should come from your own understanding of the market. And I don't think it's that hard, or you tell me if you disagree, but I don't think it's that hard to become a bit of an expert at a particular type of property in a particular type of location, because it's a much smaller market segment. A lot of agents wouldn't know as much as their buyer would if they're seriously pursuing.
If I was a knowing what I know, if I was a buyer, like, going out and trying to buy an auction property, for example, and no one would ever do this because they're just not skilled enough. I would ask, is 2.8 enough to buy this home? So it's a very different question. I never get that question from any buyers ever. Is 2.8 enough to buy this home? If buyers ask that, they'll be helping themselves.
I
And
think
what would you say on that last campaign?
Well, this is the thing.
Here we go.
They judge the speed of my answer.
Yep.
They judge my body language on that.
Totally.
Right. If they were real clever.
Yeah.
Right? And they may trip another agent up. But with me, I'd probably say, well, listen, I'd love to take that as an offer. Yeah, let's get it in writing.
Yep.
But as a buyer, if you really want to know, ask that question and you'll get a lot of info
advice.
coming back.
Completely different dynamics, right?
Yeah. And I think if you want someone to be honest with you, you sort of have to give something
Yes.
to them.
Yeah.
Like I will say, look, my budget is only 2.5. Do you think I've got a chance? While lots of buyers don't want to tell you how much money they have because
they think they need to be secretive. Yeah.
because they think the agent's going to screw you. You're in the back room negotiating and you're going to get screwed. But like if you're sort of honest and say, I can sort of, I can really push myself to go to 2.5. Do you think I've got a chance? It's a much better way to go. Then you sort of can work with the agent, though the agent's working for the vendor. They look after you if you're honest and open and say,
So
can you please help me?
Yeah.
you mentioned your own property sale and 11 bidders, and that's in an environment which doesn't have as much market activity.
Yeah.
So, and also I'm imagining at a reasonably lucrative price point. So could you just run us through handling the price is one thing that you do that's important. What are the other, and preparing the case of pre-purchase inspection but obtained by the seller, some other things that owners should be either expecting their agent to do or should be doing themselves to set themselves up for success?
One of the key things is getting second visits. It's very unusual to sell a home to a bidder who hasn't seen a house twice.
Yeah.
So that's a real litmus test. If an owner wants to know the feedback on how their programs are going, if they've had a second visit, then it's okay. If there's no second visits, it's terrible.
Danger zone.
It's a real danger zone.
I think what we really do well, Steve does really well, is to market it with emotion. So he puts emotion to every house. Like, it's just, you put a lot of emotion in the marketing, isn't it? Every house has got something really special about it. And to convey that.
Empathy in the marketing.
Yeah. Yes, look at it from a buyer's point of view.
It's targeting it to the right
Market.
audience.
Audience.
It's really important. There's an agent that I know that likes to target. Like they change their ad every week. This is their philosophy is to change it every week. But I've never been into that. Like a different target market every week. I think it's a confusing message, really.
What about that branding piece?
I think you get it right from the start. Is what I,
Exactly.
I think. Branding. Yeah. Well,
I see you just finishing that thought about getting it right. How do you pick that target market, do you think? Do you visualize a particular type
a lot of that comes from experience, right?
And we
Look at that type of home and who bought it. Yeah. And we actually
We always brainstorm. We walk a lot and we brainstorm and say, who's going to buy this house? We're like thinking about it all the time before we start. Oh, who's going to buy this house? Is it going to be young, old, or, is it going to be a first-time buyer?
In our proposals, when we're trying to win business, we have a graph there that shows where every buyer came from for every house we sold.
Oh, wow.
How we found them. And so, if we did find them through the Herald genuinely, we will tell people that. Branding.
Love your area. How did it come about? How did you choose to specialise in Remuera? How have you had such dominance over a long period of time?
You were a specialist in Remuera when I met you, weren't you?
Yeah, I decided, when I first came to Remuera, I photographed every house that had sold in the last 6 months, and I photographed every house that was for sale. And I just studied those and learnt them and tried to work out, pricing and how it works so that I would be an instant area expert. So that worked and just kept
It's
doing
like a
it.
computer. He can remember every house, how many times it's sold and what different prices it's sold for over the years. Isn't it? It's all in your head.
It's analytical. It's keeping records and just knowing, Quite often I'll pick up the phone and ring a buyer who I know.
He even knows who bought it. Other people's listing, he said, I know who bought it because he knows the profile that well.
Get a sense of it. Yeah.
I've seen it where
He calls them and says, did you buy that house? And they go, how did you know?
and he knows the neighbors by their first names too.
Yeah.
like literally, we'll be shooting a house, and he's like talking to them by their first names, and I'm like, it's commendable that you can actually remember all of that.
Our daughter had a friend in Arnie Road, and they had this house. I think it was 41, and the friend was at our house, and she said, "Oh, I'm at 43 Arnie Road," and I said,
No, you're not.
41.
He said, no, you're not. You're at 41.
And she said, "Oh yeah, we are too."
And that's great because, I mean, so from a marketing perspective, we work with a lot of agents, and we always say to them, there's always talks about being a specialist in your area, but correct me if I'm wrong, but the tendency of a lot of the agents would be is they will run where the business is, and that doesn't end up being in one area.
Can't do that.
How do you keep your operations? Remuera is a big suburb, but it's still hyper local, and you've kept it within Remuera, and all your marketing is very much specific to this zone. Was that intentional from the start, or it just happened to be like so?
I think we made a major shift focus there, basically in 2016, when we stumbled across, or when we incubated the Love Your Area theme and logo. So the idea that was there, that we decided, right, we're just going to focus on Remuera only, and we're going to tell public that that's what we're doing, and so the branding came out of that. So we put it on everything. I mean, I was telling. I was saying last night that I was driving down the road and I saw an agent's sign underneath the signboard, and it's got his name and then his initials, and so it's like AB. Right? So say it was Andrew Bloggs, AB. That's Andrew Bloggs' branding. Our branding is Steve Koeber, Love Your Area.
Love Your Area, yeah.
To me, that's branding. So there's an understanding of branding that isn't there in a lot of the industry.
Branding should evoke emotion, shouldn't it? In some way it should sort of. I mean, your blank canvas is like, you can. I don't know what's behind that.
Nike's not.
What's behind the blank canvas?
Oh, that name was formed in a cafe where the idea was that it should be a brand name that allows us to innovate with every client that we bring on board. So we should be a blank canvas, so let everyone else actually have their vision come to life, and we're sort of the mediators of it.
That was that happen. Yeah, that's amazing.
It makes sense. Yeah.
And it's true to what they do.
But I always feel like it makes your branding a lot more clearer because of that, right?
Yeah.
Because you're so focused in one area and the specialist, and on top of that, you're sort of really living and breathing the brand too, because you live locally. You also invest locally.
Yeah, it keeps us accountable.
Locally.
The branding keeps us accountable.
Right. So you're sort of, you've got the skin in the game of what you're trying to preach. And that goes a long way, because then it's not that you've got a brand that you're trying to make it work, you're just living it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And then it just becomes part of your sort of everyday. And then it's easier to actually manage it, because if anything, you're just honing it. The example of pruning the tree, because it becomes effortless, right? Because it's just part of every day. You're living it.
Yeah, it's always easier to tell the truth and be honest and do the work than trying to pretend something that's not true. People are not stupid. But together, like everything we've done together, and we've been really happy.
Yeah.
And we sort of made a lot of money just, I think, by being happy, really.
Yeah. Worked out really well.
Nobody wants to hang around someone who's not happy. I can tell you that.
And I can hear that.
Isn't it? When someone's miserable, you're like, oh my God, get me away.
Yeah, so happiness sounds like the key. I mean, I guess where I'm going with this is, what have you learned? And now maybe the advice that you would give based on both the lessons and the success that you've had, what would you share with others? What do you think, what do you wish you could go back and say to you earlier on, perhaps before you even met Nila, or Nila vice versa? What would be what's the takeaways here?
Can I tell mine?
Yeah.
Sorry, you can tell.
Oh, you go. I'm thinking.
I think in life, time is all you've got. So don't waste your time being unhappy. And don't waste your time doing something you don't want to do. I mean, if you have to do something, do it with a wholeheartedly, happily. But, some people don't have an option, they got to do that. They got to feed their kids. You have to do that. You've got to work in the warehouse to feed your kids, but, still do it with happiness and know why you're doing it.
And
Yeah, that's it.
I think for me is going out of a marriage and into a depressed state, and I'm a sort of an anxious type person, so I withdrew and an introvert, and so I withdrew into myself a lot. Did a lot of seeking and searching and reading and meditation, all that stuff. A lot of people do that and go through that. My advice would be to, if you're feeling uneasy, if you're feeling a little bit depressed or unhappy, find a way to solve those, and then life will be good if you do. But I see a lot of people who don't. One of the things that I said to myself when I came out of a marriage is I will not go in and play the field and do lots, relationships every 6 months or 12 months, and people. I find that difficult for me to look at people who come out of a relationship and jump straight into another one. I think that's a real mistake, but I might be wrong. I mean, it could work, but for me, it really worked to go inwards. And basically, Nila would back me up on this, that I shut the curtains at the house and I was a hermit. But a successful real estate agent, but out of hours as a real hermit. And, I was hurting, I was suffering, and got through it.
But I think, I've got to tell this too, read a lot and learn all the time. There's so much to learn in the world, from what other people have been through, what they've learned. There's endless amount you could learn and change, and there's always a better way of doing things. That's something I forgot to tell. That's really, really important. Everything you do, always think, why am I doing this? Is there a better way of doing it? Always question.
Just open yourself up for new challenges or anything that gets thrown at you.
Everything you can always do it better. Like there are big corporations, there are people doing things, and I always think, why are you doing this? Do you know why you're doing this? Always question yourself, why am I doing this? Why am I dressing like this? Is that the best way to dress? Am I comfortable? Why am I wearing high heels? Why are you doing that? It's really painful. Is there a reason why you do that? Always question everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
And if it serves a purpose.
Is it helping me?
Exactly.
Is it helping someone else?
Are there any real estate agents out there who, typically when people, younger people come to me and want some advice, etc., which is pretty rare, actually.
It's not rare, I can tell you that. I know a lot of agents that actually look up to Steve.
Well, they look up to him.
They do, but they don't pick up the phone. And one of the and this is, like I said, I'm a bit of a deep thinker about this, and I think I'd love to help people, but the best way I can help them on this podcast, if there's anyone listening, to say, don't ring me or anyone else that you sort of look up to and say, can I meet you for a coffee and pick your brains? Right? You've got to add value. So you say to them, can I visit you at your open home? I see you there between 2:30 and 3. If that's a quiet one, could I come and bring you a coffee and just chew the fat with you while you're there?
That's great advice. Yeah.
People don't, think like that and you'll succeed.
Be generous in your approach. Yeah. And I
was going to say, you took words out my mouth in terms of actually advising these agents, new agents, or whoever's looking to start, what they should be doing. Yeah. So you briefly answered that. Yeah. But what would be sort of especially with our podcast where we've got a lot of homeowners that listen to this podcast, what would be sort of your advice to them before they even consider putting their property to the market? What are almost like the fundamentals they should be considering? If you have to summarize them, maybe 2 to 3 words, like what would they be? Or 2 or 3 sentences, sorry. What would they be so that they can kind of get into the cycle of, this is how a good campaign could be run, and prepping them really well for when they're dealing with an agent?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. I would, just as a quick snippet there, say find the type of agent who will, once they've got the right money for your house and you're happy, everyone's happy, find the type of agent who will pick up the phone, go outside. Hey, listen, thank you for your offer. It's just not quite enough. Another 10,000, it's yours.
Do absolutely everything for you to get the most amount of money for you and help you, isn't it?
So if you find an agent who's able to do that, but also willing to do that, that's the agent for you. They're a pretty rare beast, I've got to say. But try and find one. Hopefully you don't have to train them to do it.
Well, that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
It's sort of, because, I mean, like, if there's a lot of homeowners in different areas that are probably don't or aren't blessed with like a lot of really good agents around. Some of them might find themselves in a really, situation where they're probably having to push the agent to get the output that they like. But that's a very interesting dynamics, I suppose, where if you're a homeowner and you've got certain expectations, a good agent will manage that from the start, right? Yeah. So it's always interesting to see how, like, the vendors will look at the situation, and especially like people listening to this and people listening to the expertise that you have. It'd be interesting for them to know if and when they're choosing an agent, what should they be asking? What are the most fundamentals that they should be asking? Not only how you present my property, but what is your initial process before you even start this relationship? Would you have anything to say on that?
It's been so long since we've sort of been in that situation. We've been asked, what can you do for me? Because we've got such a mature audience that know what we do, and they'll watch the videos and they'll see us at an open home, and because we're so hyper local, it's as a homeowner, if I was a little bit naive and I hadn't looked at all of the listings and things for the last 2-3 years, if I was just coming in cold and I owned a home, like say I had my mum had died and I'm selling a house and going a completely different area, what would we do? We would find the best agent in the area.
So how would you do that? I think that's the question Harps is asking.
Yeah.
The one who sells the most, maybe?
Well, for example, homes.co.nz. I mean, in our area, you just basically look at the person with the highest volume, I think, of sales, in roughly in that sort of house that you own. Then interview them and see if you click with them. If you don't, I wouldn't. This is self-interested. I wouldn't muddy the waters by going with 3. I would actually just find that person that's online proven to be the best. And if you don't click with them, well, then go to number 2.
I think you'd really have to find somebody who you think is going to care. Like for me, it's really, really important that the person, has to be skilled too, not just care, and no skill would be terrible as well. I mean, you got to have a balance between someone who really cares and someone who's got the skills. I think end of the day, anyone can sell a house, isn't it? I mean, they've got to really care and work very, very hard.
It's how you do it.
Yeah, you got to work hard. You don't want someone lazy too, who's, sells a lot of houses but doesn't really care, or is lazy.
And if a vendor goes into one of those meetings and they're hoping to get like a 2% commission or a lower commission, for example, we're not the sort of people to ask that, off the bat. That's not a good approach from an owner. They need to go and find the person who's going to add the most value to them, who's going to put the most money in their.
Tell you what,
it's really dangerous to go with the cheapest person.
Totally, I reckon the advantage of asking a question like that would just simply be to see what kind of negotiator you had, in your house.
Do that, yeah.
You can always ask for it at the end, when everyone's suffering a bit. It's all right, I mean, I'm happy to, give a discount at the end, whether they ask for it or not. Like yesterday, we gave them, some money off the commission because, I really felt for them. It was difficult for them.
Yeah.
I didn't mind at that point because, we had a really good relationship and I sort of really felt for them, and we sort of send the auctioneer in with an offering without even them asking. Which is like a nice thing to do for somebody who's not having it easy.
Them move forward.
It helped everybody.
I can see, you're very generous in your approach. I've just loved the chat today. It's actually a bit of a love story, and I think it's just wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Steve, about that depressed stage that you were in, but also I think the hope coming through, and actually that happiness is not only perhaps something that we should aspire to. Like, everyone wants to be happy, but actually when you can find that happy state, it allows the flow and everything else to happen, and you attract good people around you. And that's been something that you've done very, very well. I can see why people choose to work with you.
Oh, thank you.
Including, we've attracted you guys to our lives. Which is
Thanks for having us, guys.
We don't have a question.
What do I say? What do I say? I reckon I know what the
wrap
question
up with
is.
Hamish
I know
at
what
that time. Hamish
Can you ask the dude before that what the question was?
Do you want to leave a question for someone?
You can leave us a question for the next guest.
what do you think?
Just ask what you
If you had just 1 week to live, what would be the most important thing for you?
I love it.
Love that question.
Can't wait to ask that.
Just 1 week.
Wow.
If that's
What
all
would
the time
be-
you had, because time's all you've got in life.
Yes.
It's
What about-
running out.
What about
every
if you
single
had a
day.
week to live? What would you do tomorrow?
Yep. You had a week to live. What would you do tomorrow?
Because that really makes
What would you do with it?
Oh shit! I got to do something tomorrow.
Yep.
What's the answer of that from you? That same question.
Cut on my life.
Cut my life.
I tell you, it's a love story.
I know, right?
It's so nice.
This is what I find refreshing. It's just always the same. It's amazing. Amazing.